I'm here to talk about creating an action. It's a shortcut, like a macro. It can be a huge time saver where you're creating many actions that are the exact same on a photo. You don't want to be creating an action for one or two photos. If you're doing at least, I would say 5 or 6, even more, use the action. What my goal is, and an action is stored mouse strokes, etc. And what it is in this case here, let's just say my hypothetical thing is here, I want to make it black and white, change the size, the DPI. You can do almost anything in an action. You could store it to one of the function keys like the F5 key or whatever. And if I want to see the actions, I click on Window and I click on Actions. It shows the actions here. It shows this over here. I'm working with Adobe Photoshop CS6 on the PC. It should work the same. I scroll down. We have some pre-recorded ones. What I see down here is this action here. If I don't need it anymore, I just trash it, put it in the garbage can. I always assign them to a couple of these F keys. Makes it a lot easier than just clicking on it. And when you're doing this, if you're going to be exporting, like you want to keep this original file, but you're putting it in another folder, create the folder first in one transaction without using, you know what I'm saying. So that way it will go in there automatically. And if you are doing a similar thing in a different folder with another group of photos, you're either going to have to edit the action by clicking on one of these. What I often do is if it's only, let's say, maybe a half a dozen steps, I delete it, start all over again. I always beta test to make sure that it is going into the correct folder. The folder has been created already. I did one here. So let's say I want to turn this into a black and white here. So I could go to, say, Image, Adjustments, black and white. I'm using a standard thing here, and if they're all like similar exposures, you can't really, you can pause if you want to. I'm doing this in a very simple fashion. So I've got this in here. I say OK. Let's say I want to give it a tint. I want to make it look like a old photo. So I've got that. Go in there. I say OK. I've got the desired effect here, but what I did not start recording the action. So I'm going to just say Edit, Step Backward. I want to create an action. I go on this little toolbar here, Create New Action. You could give it a name, and I could call it Monotone Sepia for Web, because you're creating a website. I could assign the function key. I'm going to use the F5, record. Everything I do at this point will be recorded. So don't go and check an email in the midst of this. Otherwise, it's going to do this every time you run the action. You have all these little things here. You could stop it. You begin recording. That's what it's doing here. Create new set. So the first thing I want to do here, I'm going to go into Image, Adjustments, and then I will go into the black and white, and then it remembers the settings that I did before. I could say Tint. It remembers it. You could still play with it in here if you want to. I can make it very saturated, unsaturated. It got the preview there. I say OK. That's the first thing that it did. Next thing too, I want to resize this. I'm going to say Image, Image Size, and let's say I want everything, because it's for a website, I all want them 4 inches wide, and I want 72 dots per inch. So I've got that. I can enlarge this a bit. That will be not stored in there because you're doing that. Going into image size. Next thing I want to do, I want to add, let's say, maybe an adjustment layer to this. I can click on adjustment layer here, and then let's say I want to work with the vibrance. I click on that. Shows it right here. More vibrant. Saturation there. I pull it over so you could see. Let me enlarge this a bit. As I said, this is a very standard thing that will be on all of my photos. I like this. I know it looks extreme, but let's say I like it. I can hide it, put it in there. Next thing I want to do, I'm going to be saving this. As I said, you can put a lot of actions. I've done some of them with about 32 steps in them, okay? What I'm going to do now, I'm going to start saving this. I'm going to do File, Save As. I'm going to find the folder. I have this thing here called Actions. It's going to remember this. However, I don't want this to be a PSD. I want it to be a JPEG. I go into here and I just click on JPEG. I say save. I have something in there already. I say save. I can change the size of it, make it smaller or larger. I want it a little bit larger. I say OK. Now I'm going to close out of this. Ask if I want to save this. If you want, I'm going to say no because I want to complete this whole action. No. Now I've completed all the things here. I click on this thing here. Stop recording. It was that red button there. Now I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to open up another photo. I want to do the exact same thing. Does it very fast. I'm going to do another one. Let's say I want to work with this one here. If I have to do any other retouches, I would do them prior to running the action. I'm going to go back over here, and I'm going to go hit the back button here. I have a folder here called Actions. That's not what I did here, but if you look here, this and that, they've all been done. Just practice with it, work with backups, everything should be fine.